Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker, tēnā tātou te whare tēnei pō. I'm delighted and proud to join my colleagues in speaking in this 2010 budget debate. I'm proud that all the commentators, all the people I've met up and down the country, all my relations and whānau have told me that this is the kind of budget that gives them hope, that it delivers on the kind of aspirational and ambitious message that we have delivered from the time we began campaigning, and that was the basis for New Zealanders voting us into government. This budget lends itself to hyperbole, Mr. Speaker. It is brilliant. It is a once-in-a-generation budget. It is smart. It is comprehensive. It is positive. It encourages all New Zealanders to have the faith in themselves that this government has in them. We have huge philosophical differences, Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House from that side of the House. Basically, we ultimately and absolutely believe in New Zealanders. We trust them to make good decisions for themselves. We believe that they want the best for themselves, and that the role of government is to create the environment that helps them to be successful. It is not the role of government to continually cut the pie ever smaller, to get better at making slithers available to this segment of society and that segment of society. Rather, it is our responsibility, we believe, on this side of the House, to put practical incentives in the hands of New Zealanders so that they can make decisions about how hard they work, how much they spend, how much they save, how much they invest. And this budget, through the tax reform that the Minister of Finance has so smartly designed, does allow that for all New Zealanders, regardless of the kind of work they're doing. It allows them, as my colleague who's just sat down said, to keep 82.5 cents of every dollar that they earn. It incentivises them to know that rather than handing it over to an ever-increasing bloated bureaucracy to make decisions about what is best for them, it leaves that decision in their own hands, that decision to make for themselves, for their families and for their communities. So, Mr. Speaker, one of the key philosophical differences that you can see in the budget that has been presented to New Zealanders and which has been responded to so positively by New Zealanders is that we believe in them to make good choices for themselves. We're trying to model the behaviour, the very behaviour that we want to see occurring. We're focusing on good fiscal management. We've, ever since we came into government, have sought to ensure that all public services are delivered in a smarter, more consistent fashion, that we deliver greater value for the same amount of money. And in doing that, in last year's budget, we were able to find nearly $2 billion of really poorly spent money and a further $1.8 billion in this budget. So that's almost $4 billion worth of taxpayers' money that is being reprioritised into areas like health, where, as the former speakers pointed out, much to the disbelief and scepticism of members in the opposition, $2 billion is going into health. That's $2 billion new money going into health, and New Zealanders are appreciating that. They know that they need to have good health, that they need to have good housing, and that they need to have a strong educational platform if they are to make their way in life and be successful for themselves and for their families. We can't spend more than we earn. If we think about the budget for our nation, it has the same simple recipe as we have for the budget for our own households. We cannot spend more than we earn, or certainly we cannot go on spending more than we earn, and we have to become more discerning about the consumption choices that we make. Our tax package has tilted that economic behaviour in favour of people working harder in order to keep more, but also in terms of making better judgments about how much we spend and on what. We have seen a period of rampant consumerism, not confined to New Zealand alone, but also to the rest of the world. And we've got young generations, my children amongst them, growing up thinking that buying more is better. And I'm endeavouring in our household to role model the very behaviour that our Minister of Finance has set for us in this budget, that we have to work Even I've required my daughters to get their jobs, and they moan and groan when I say, when I was your age, I was, doing X, Y and Z, which of course I was. In fact, was A, B, C, D and all the way through to X, Y and Z. But our children do understand that if they work hard and they earn their money, and the difference between paying more or less tax is completely now understood by my daughters. We're moving in the right direction, as unemployment and business confidence figures show. We're expecting, on the basis of the budget, to see 170,000 new jobs over the next 4 years, and these are real sustainable jobs. And this has been a welcome piece of news to, as I said, my wider whānau who live on the east coast of the North Island and who have been the victims of the boom and bust investments of many governments over many eras, who've decided that trees were the answer, and then grapes were the answer, and then kiwi fruit were the answer, and then corn was the answer. But in fact, the answer isn't what the government decides to invest in or not invest in a community. The answer is people making decisions for themselves who live in those communities and know what does or doesn't work for them. And our government's role is to invest in those people to make those decisions rather than making them for them. Part of the equipment that people require in order to be making those good decisions is an excellent education. And this government is very committed to ensuring that an excellent education is available to all New Zealanders. In the early childhood education area, we've seen in this budget a further $91 million invested in raising the participation of those communities that have a very low record of engagement with the early childhood sector. And in particular, those are Māori and Pacific Island communities. We know, both directly and through research, that those children who participate in early childhood education will have a stronger educational experience that will sustain them through life. The trajectory of their educational experience will be longer and higher and wider. And that is why we have invested $91 million in the early childhood sector so that Māori and Pacific Island children in particular, but not exclusively, get the opportunity to participate and engage in early childhood education. In fact, not 2 weeks ago in Porirua, the Ministers of Education and Pacific Island Affairs and myself attended the opening of Toru Whetū, a kindergarten in Waitangirua associated with Marairoa. And that kindergarten is a first in New Zealand in that it is a joint venture between Niuean, Cook Island and Tuvaluan communities. They've come together because they recognise two things that we on this side of the House recognise and want to invest in. The first is that it is extremely important to have strong cultural identity because that is the vehicle that will carry you through life, and to have a strong education because that is the power that will boost that vehicle through life. So Toru Whetū anticipated and reflects exactly the investment that this government is making in early childhood education. And I think that the opposition would do the country a service by not scaremongering about early childhood education and putting off those families who we are trying so hard to get to engage with early childhood education. I am a play centre child. I am a play centre child, and those play centres are run by parents, and they are very happy with the idea that they can continue to offer early childhood education on an equivalent basis to those other early childhood options that choose to have trained teachers. But our government is about choice. And if parents want to choose to send their children to Play Centre, which has parent-led early childhood education, or to Kohanga Reo, which has nanny and papa-led early childhood education, or to Toru Whetū, or to kindergarten, those are the choices that are available to them. And this government has been prepared to put its money where its mouth is in backing cultural identity, early childhood education, primary education, tertiary education and lifelong learning. That's what this budget is about, and I commend it to the House with pride, excitement, energy and delight, because it is a generation-changing budget, and New Zealanders will be